I wasn't expecting Caitlin Clark to be coming back this early, but ESPN put out an article earlier this week kind of summing up. They was predicting Caitlin Clark to be back by August the 12th. Now, this just came out of the pipeline of the Indiana Fever front office. Let's pull it up right now.
So, the basketball world is totally holding its breath because the Golden Goose is coming back. After weeks of radio silence and endless rumors, Caitlin Clark's injury status just got a huge update. She's now a game-time decision. That news sent shockwaves across the whole WNBA. The Indiana Fever star player, the league's undisputed ratings magnet, the most important athlete in women's basketball, period. She's finally lacing up her sneakers again.
Caitlin effing Clark is a game-time decision. She is a game-time decision. She is, as far as I'm aware, someone said she's listed as questionable on the app. Someone said on the app she's listed as questionable. But she is a game-time decision, apparently. Look, if we're gonna be honest,
listen, when Clark steps back on that court, it's more than just a player coming back from injury. It's like the whole league gets a second chance. The WNBA has really been limping along without their golden ticket. Viewership numbers just cratered super fast. But now, the cavalry is finally here, and every single person involved in this league knows their paychecks depend on what happens next.
Caitlin Clark may be back, and that will leave a run of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games left to get ready for the playoff run. Right now, you're looking at the Atlanta Dream, or you're looking at the Phoenix Mercury, which should be very interesting considering all the...
But here's the thing. This is the brutal reality. Nobody wants to admit it, but everyone knows it's true. Before Clark went down with that groin injury on July 15, Indiana Fever games were averaging a staggering 1.81 million viewers. The moment she disappeared from the lineup, those numbers collapsed to just 847,000. That's a 53% drop. It hit the league like a freight train, carrying nothing but harsh reality checks.
You can argue this intelligently. No one person means as much to their league, whatever league it is, as Caitlin Clark means to the WNBA. And no person has done more for their league than what Caitlin Clark has done for the WNBA. Patrick Mahomes does not mean that much to the NFL. Steph Curry does not mean that much to the NBA. LeBron James does not mean that much to the NBA. She is a monster. When we look back on this, Caitlin Clark will be for the WNBA what Magic Johnson and Larry Bird were for the...
But it gets worse.
And national WNBA viewership across all games plummeted by 55% during Clark's absence. Just let that sink in for a second. More than half the league's television audience literally evaporated, all because one player couldn't play. That's not just star power, that's economic dependency on a level that would make any business executive break out in a cold sweat.
You can't tell me that the Caitlin Clark effect isn't real. You knew when news broke yesterday that Caitlin Clark was going to be out for a few weeks, that ticket prices were going to go down, but I never expected them to go down 71% for the rivalry game. I can't help but laugh because the first thing that I thought of when I saw this was a quote that we got last year from Angel Reese when she was talking about how people don't just watch the WNBA for Caitlin, they watch it because of her as well. Hate to say it, those numbers don't lie. They're watching because of Caitlin.
And get this, the ticket market told the same devastating story. Fever games that were commanding $137 ticket prices with Clark in the lineup suddenly became $80 bargain basement experiences. When the Chicago Sky faced Indiana without both Clark and Angel Reese, tickets that once sold for $86 dropped to an embarrassing $25. Even premium matchups saw prices crash from over $2,000 down to $95. The cheapest seats fell from $86 all the way down to $25. Teams that had moved games to larger venues expecting Clark were left holding the bag when she couldn't suit up. The Washington Mystics even relocated their game to Baltimore, specifically to accommodate Clark's crowds, only to watch ticket prices nosedive from $41 when she was ruled out.
Fever Sky tickets dropped 71% on TickPick after Caitlin Clark injury. The get-in price for the Chicago Sky versus Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever game was $86. After Caitlin Clark's injury announcement is now down to $25. And you Angel Reese fangirls will still believe and think that Angel Reese is the reason why.
What's crazy is the sheer scale of her impact. Sports economist Ryan Brewer projected that Clark's economic impact could hit $1 billion this season, and those aren't just inflated numbers designed to generate headlines. That's merchandising, tourism, television deals, and everything else that comes with being a cultural phenomenon that transcends basketball. Her presence alone was valued at approximately $340 million for the Fever franchise. It transformed them from a struggling organization into the league's most valuable property. The ripple effects extend far beyond Indianapolis.
I think we're on the verge of seeing Caitlin Clark become bigger than the sport herself. WNBA viewing attendance is up over 200% since she joined the league. The Indiana Fever actually are outselling the Pacers, averaging over 17,000 attendance per game. That's crazy. $1 billion is the estimated increase in WNBA valuation based on Caitlin Clark alone. $1 billion. Now, this is up about 25% from the total economic value. Crazy to see these kind of numbers. I think we're on the verge of seeing something like MJ Tiger, where the average consumer goes to the TV because of somebody.
Plus, when Clark plays on the road, ticket prices increase by an average of 140%, with the average resale price reaching $312. Out of the 10 best-selling WNBA games on StubHub this season, every single one involved the Fever. Dick's Sporting Goods reported a 233% increase in WNBA merchandise sales compared to last season. Fanatics saw all WNBA merchandise sales surge by over 500%. Clark ranks among the top 20 selling athletes across all sports, and she's 6th among basketball players. Yes, that includes NBA stars. Her Nike deal is reportedly worth $28 million over 8 years. That completely dwarfs her $76,535 WNBA salary, highlighting the massive disconnect between her value to the league and her compensation.
Caitlin Clark's agent, Aaron Kane, said Caitlin will never be paid what she's worth by the WNBA because it is quite literally impossible for them to pay her what she's worth. An economist at Indiana University Columbus calculated that Caitlin Clark was responsible for $36 million in economic impact to the city of Indianapolis, and that she is responsible for 27% of the entire WNBA's economic activity for this past season, including attendance, merchandise sales, and television. One player in a big league responsible for 27% of the economic.
Now here's what makes Clark's impending return even more dramatic. The Indiana Fever had been operating in full crisis mode since she went down. Both of their backup point guards, Ari McDonald and Sydney Colson, suffered season-ending injuries in their August 7th game. That left the team scrambling to sign 12-year veteran Odyssey Sims on a hardship contract. But here's the thing, during Clark's absence, the Fever actually managed a respectable 6-4 record over their last 10 games. That includes a dominant 92-70 victory over the Chicago Sky, even while playing with only 9 available players. Kelsey Mitchell stepped into the point guard role magnificently, dropping 26 points and 8 assists with just 1 turnover against Chicago. Aaliyah Boston has been posting video game numbers, shooting 78% from the field over a 4-game stretch without Clark. But here's the uncomfortable truth that everyone in the organization understands. This is borrowed time. The Fever can survive without Clark for stretches, but they cannot thrive. They cannot become championship contenders. They cannot sustain the massive television audiences and ticket sales that have transformed them from irrelevant to indispensable. As Coach Christy Sides herself admitted, they look like a different team with Clark and without Clark.
Now, if you're wondering about Odyssey, she is a guard, 5'8". She's a veteran, 33 years old. This is interesting. She's been an all-star. She's also was 2019 All-WNBA. 2014 All-Rookie Team. She's had some good seasons in here, folks. No, she doesn't have a great history with the three-point shot. But if Caitlin Clark is coming back,
And Clark's recent appearance on a podcast revealed the psychological toll of carrying an entire league on her shoulders. She admitted feeling this massive responsibility to be out there and play, acknowledging that viewership and ticket sales drop substantially whenever she's unavailable. The pressure isn't just about basketball performance anymore. It's about understanding that hundreds of jobs, millions in revenue, and the entire trajectory of women's professional basketball depends on her health. Her mother's text message during this latest injury provides incredible insight into the crushing expectations Clark faces daily. You've taken so much time for everybody else, you have to take time for yourself now. This isn't the typical athlete injury recovery. It's a superstar learning to balance personal health with economic responsibility to an entire ecosystem built around her existence. Clark described the unique challenge of returning to professional basketball without the luxury of training camp preparation. She put it like this: "It's not like I have a training camp to build up to playing my first game again. It's no, you're tossed into game 30, go try to play well." She's dealing with the stop and go nature of soft tissue injuries while knowing that every game missed represents massive financial losses across multiple organizations.
Being active and playing 4 games and then not, and not feeling the best, and then frustrated of how hard I worked in the off season, and then all I do is rehab and continue to do this process, and just trying to trust that the best I can. And obviously there's really frustrating days, and there's days where it's a little bit easier, and you're very, very motivated, and you're right close to the finish line of getting back and being back, and then it's not like I have a training camp to build up to playing my first game again. It's no, you're tossed into game 30.
So when Clark finally returns, and all signs point to it happening very soon, expect absolute pandemonium. Her comeback game will likely be one of the most watched regular season WNBA games in history. The last time she returned from injury against the New York Liberty on June 14th, the game peaked at 2.8 million viewers. It became ESPN's third most watched WNBA game ever on ABC. Look, WNBA viewership is already up 21% compared to the 2020 season, even with Clark missing 19 of 32 games this year. Non-fever games have actually seen a remarkable 37% increase. That suggests the league has successfully expanded its audience beyond just Clark's fan base. But everyone knows, the real fireworks begin when she's healthy. The timing of Clark's return couldn't be more perfect. The Fever currently sit 5th in league standings at 18 of 14, firmly in playoff position, needing everyone to secure their postseason spot. They're riding a wave of confidence after dismantling Chicago without their star, proving they can compete at a high level even in adverse circumstances.
Now, Caitlin Clark just helped deliver a major statement win. On Saturday, June 14, Caitlin Clark returned to the court for the Indiana Fever after missing 5 games due to a quad injury. The Indiana Fever handed the New York Liberty their first loss of the season, and Caitlin Clark was at the center of it. She made a return with force, leading the charge on both ends of the floor, and she came back in dominant fashion, putting up 32 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds. Just shy of a 30-point triple-double in a 102-88 win over the New York Liberty. Now, even NBA's own LeBron James took notice, posting the CC effect.
The business implications of Clark's return are truly staggering. ESPN networks were actually down slightly in WNBA viewership before Clark's return last season, but once she was healthy, they saw a massive gain. Games across ESPN platforms are averaging 1.3 million viewers when she plays, up 7% from strong baseline numbers. ESPN Research Vice President Flo Hurdle acknowledged Clark's importance while emphasizing the league's overall growth. She said, "We love Caitlin Clark, and we think she's phenomenal and she's a generational talent, but the growth that's happening outside of those Fever games is really something that I feel like everyone's missing the boat on." Even so, 21 of the 24 WNBA broadcasts that drew at least 1 million viewers last season featured Clark. This timing aligns perfectly with the WNBA's new $2.2 billion media rights deal, beginning in 2026, shared between NBC Sports and ESPN. Both networks are betting heavily on the league's continued growth, with Clark serving as the cornerstone of that investment. Teams across the league have already adapted their strategies around Clark's drawing power. The Dream, Sun, Wings, Aces, Mystics, and Chicago Sky have all moved home games against Indiana to larger venues to accommodate increased demand. When the Fever visited Iowa for a preseason exhibition, it became the most expensive ticket in Clark's entire career, with resale prices reaching over $1,150.
Caitlin Clark continues to crush the viewership department and bring in those big ratings. This is from ESPN PR. This past Sunday, ABC aired another of its most watched WNBA games ever with the Indiana Fever's win over the Dallas Wings. It averaged 2.1 million viewers and peaked at 2.5 million viewers. WNBA on ESPN is up 7% from last season, man. What? The numbers are crazy. The numbers are crazy. She's a...
Look, here's what makes Clark's return so urgent for the Fever organization. Despite having consecutive #1 overall picks in Aaliyah Boston and Clark, their championship window is actually more immediate than people realize. The WNBA salary structure and competitive balance rules make sustained dominance nearly impossible. The Fever need to capitalize on Clark's rookie contract and all the momentum she's created. Before other teams catch up, Coach Stephanie White understands the stake. The margin for error when you're talking about playing championship caliber teams is so small. The Fever made aggressive offseason moves to surround Clark with veteran talent like Dawana Bonner, Natasha Howard, and Sophie Cunningham. They did this precisely because they know this window might not stay open forever. Clark herself set the expectation before the season. My expectation is for us to try to win a championship. That wasn't idle talk. It was a statement of intent from someone who understands her unique position in the sports hierarchy. Their early season victory over Chicago, 93-58, with Clark recording a triple-double and competitive games against the defending champion New York Liberty, all proved the Fever belonged in championship conversation.
We have not seen Caitlin Clark since the beginning of July. A lot of people have predicted for her to be out around the end of August, but this is a great update, saying that she could possibly play tomorrow, going up against Paige Beckers. Now, we know they have been having this crazy narrative about Paige and Caitlin, Paige being better. Everything will be put to bed tomorrow. I pray Caitlin plays.
The thing is, when Clark returns, she's not just coming back to play basketball. She's returning to a league where every opponent knows their careers, their salaries, and their relevance are tied to her performance. Other players are panicking. They've realized the uncomfortable truth. The WNBA's growth isn't collective success. It's the Caitlin Clark show, with supporting characters. The league has spent decades trying to build a sustainable product, but Clark's absence proved they've accidentally created a house of cards. If her injury can single-handedly crash viewership and attendance, what happens during her next injury? What happens when she retires? These are questions that keep WNBA executives awake at night. Clark's return coincides with a packed schedule that's already causing injuries across the league. She's coming back to face top-level competition on national television, with every player in the league watching to see if she can recapture her pre-injury form. The psychological warfare has already begun, and her return is the opening shot in a war for the soul of women's basketball.
2.1 million average viewers to watch the Indiana Fever, Caitlin Clark, take on the Dallas Wings. ABC airs another of its most watched WNBA games ever. WNBA games ever. Ever. Ever, ever, forever, ever, forever, ever. ABC's fourth most watched WNBA game ever. More than 120 regular season and postseason games. More than 120 regular season and postseason games. This is more than most WNBA finals games, including last year.
Ultimately, what makes Clark's return so significant extends beyond sports economics. She's become a cultural touchstone, attracting fans who had never watched women's basketball before. Her games regularly outdraw NBA playoff contests, and her appeal crosses demographic boundaries that traditional WNBA marketing never reached. The Caitlin Clark effect has transformed women's basketball into must-see television. But it's also created unprecedented pressure. She carries the hopes of every player who wants higher salaries, every broadcaster who invested in women's sports, and every fan who believes this moment represents a permanent shift in the sporting landscape. Clark's ability to attract 1.3 million fan votes for the All-Star Game, compared to just 96,000 2 years earlier, demonstrates her unique connection with audiences. Her games set attendance records, break television viewership benchmarks, and generate the kind of mainstream media attention that the WNBA had only dreamed of achieving. The WNBA is about to get their golden goose back, and the entire basketball world is ready to watch what happens next.